Now, talk about life-changing moment for me. Okay. I told you about when I was 20 years old, working at United Rentals, really wanted to become a sales rep, wanted the company truck, the expense card, and driving around calling on customers. And he literally shut me down. He said, "There's no way you could ever succeed at this because you don't talk to anybody." And so I'm working in the service department at Warrior Tractor 2 years later. I had stepped up a little bit, but still in that same type role, still seeing all these sales guys, intrigued by what they're doing and thinking, I would love to do that, but I'm not qualified to do it. There's no way I can ever get there. It wasn't even a thought in my mind. But Cleve Deason, who is now 78 years old, I'm going to be driving down next week to give him one of these books, because chapter 3 in the book is the Cleve Deason chapter. Cleve pulled me aside one day and said, "Hey, let's go to lunch. I've got something for you." Me and Cleve weren't really close before then. We, talked, but it was just work relationship. And we get to lunch, and he said, "I really think you need to go into the sales department." Well, at the time, there was no opening in the sales department at our office. There were about 8 sales reps. We sold bulldozers, backhoes, all that type stuff. Each salesman was in charge of a certain territory, handful of counties that he covered, and there was no option. But he said, "What you have, it's not fair to you, it's not fair to your family, and it's not fair to the customers that you could be helping, that you're stuck in a job that you're doing right now." And he said, "I really think you should go to the sales department." And to back that up, I have asked David Pearson, the sales manager, to divide my territory and give you half of it. And overwhelmed, I'm like, wow. And he said, "And what I'm going to do is 2 or 3 days a week, we're going to either sit in my office and we're going to have coffee, we're going to grab lunch, whatever it is, and we're going to talk about your day and what you're doing. And I'm going to mentor you and help you get started with this." And he said, "And you follow me, you can ride with me to my customers and see what I do, and then make it your own." Well, I did that, but I still kind of did it wrong because I've got this extreme work ethic where I've got to do more than everybody else. And so my mindset was, it's a numbers game. I've got to see or talk to 20, 25 people a day. He told me I need to see at least 8 to 10. And I was like, well, I've got to streamline this thing. If he thinks I need to see 8 to 10, I'm going to double that so I can become successful faster. And so I was driving around to job sites and to offices. I had a stack full of business cards that I was just blowing through. I would get out of my truck with a card or two in my hand, go to every contractor on the job site and hand it to them, introduce myself real quick, rattle off the 10 different products we have, and then back to the truck for the next one. And I was doing that every single day. And I thought I was successful because my call reports showed that I should be. But I really wasn't selling a ton. Like I might sell one piece of equipment every couple of months. But it was still more money than I was making because I was now making commission, plus my old hourly job was now my salary. So like I was still feeling pretty good about myself. But one day I'm driving through Chelsea, Alabama, and that's not me and Cleve, but that was ChatGPT's version of us. Yeah, no, I did have a little bit of hair at that age, but I'm driving through Chelsea, Alabama, and it's around 4 o'clock. It's cold, it's rainy, it's starting to get dark around November, December. Some of you guys have heard this story already, but it's my best story, so I'm going to tell you. Um, I see this man running back and forth, laying side. And I noticed that he was dressed about like I'm dressed now. You know, nice khaki pants. You know, he didn't look like a landscaper. And you know, big nice truck sitting in the driveway. He's by himself. There's about 12 pallets of sod on the ground. And I almost didn't stop because he's obviously busy. I'm ready to go home. It's raining, it's cold, it's almost dark. I've already seen 25 people today. My call reports are full. But I stopped, have my business card in my hand, and he said, I don't have time to talk to a salesman right now. Landscaper didn't show up, and I've got to get all this sod put down before the rain turns it into mud. And I almost turned around to get back in the truck. We haven't even introduced ourselves at this point. I've got my business card in my hand. It's starting to get wet. And so I almost turned around and went back to the truck because he was very blunt with me. He didn't want to talk to me. But I made a quick decision. I said, hey, you know what? I got nothing to do. So I asked him, I said, hey, let me help you. You obviously are under the gun here. Let me help you. I used to help my uncle lay sod at times, and I kind of know what I'm doing. And he said, hey, I'll take the help. That's fine. We worked for 4 hours not knowing each other's name. My business card is sitting on the tailgate of his truck, just withering away in the rain. And I remember I had on a pair of brand new khaki pants, ruined those, ruined my shoes, ruined my shirt. And, you know, working harder than I've worked in years since the roofing days. And we worked for 4 or 5 hours in the dark and the rain. And at the end, I just said, hey, if you don't mind, I'm going to get you a new card. And all I ask is if you ever hear of anyone who can use my products or my services, that you tell them about me. And we shook hands, we exchanged names. Several weeks, months went by, and I kind of had actually forgotten about doing this. I actually went home that day and I threw away my clothes because I didn't want to put them in the washer. But I forgot about that day basically. And then I get a call one day from a guy named Jeff Alexander. He owns an excavating company. And he said, hey, I need to buy a backhoe like today. Nobody just called and needed to buy a backhoe today. That's a calculated thing, just like a house. And I said, okay, well, you know, that sounds great. How did you hear about me? And he said, well, John Buttrey gave me your phone number. And he said, he met you on his job site a while back. And he said, Joey cares more about people than he cares about sales and transactions. And he said that I need to talk to Joey before I buy any other piece of equipment. And I was like, hey, that's awesome. I couldn't imagine a better compliment than that. Yeah, let's get it done. Let's help you. Well, then over the years, only a year or two, Jeff ended up buying like 7 more pieces of equipment from me. Every time he called me, it was like talking to a friend because it was trust from John, the builder. And I had already worked with him. It was repeat business. It was just 2 friends doing business. I tried to count it the other day. It's been almost 20 years since this happened, 18 years. Jeff connected me to almost 50 contractors who bought equipment from me. I've got 2 little girls at home. My wife at that time staying home with the girls. Because of Jeff Alexander, I was able to go from one of 9 sales reps in our office out of 14 offices, barely any education. When I was in about 8th grade, I checked out. Didn't care about anything but chasing girls and playing ball. Cheated my way through most of high school. Didn't care about anything or anybody. So shouldn't be here. Shouldn't have had any sort of success in business. But because of those connections, I went from one of about 9 people in one sales job out of 14 stores to the top 3 sales reps in the entire company. And I was having fun at work. I went from seeing 25 people a day to connecting deeply with maybe 5. And half of that was 2 and 3 hour lunches that the company was paying for. Like it was, I went to having fun at work. It was great. And then I was able to, the economy fell in 2010. So all this took place from around 2006 to 2009. The economy went down, and John Buttrey called me one day, the builder in the rain that day. And he said, "Hey, I know you have all these connections. I know you know so many people, and you always have a solution. 2 years ago, I'm just the guy with the card, didn't know what I was doing at all. Still don't know how to be a salesman, just good at relationships, and I do what I tell you I'm going to do." But John calls me and he says, "Hey, I need $30,000 like yesterday because some things are defaulting." He's one of thousands of builders that everything's falling, the whole world's falling on him. He said, "I've got that nice truck that you saw that day. At that time, now it's a $100,000 truck. It was probably $50,000, $60,000 then." He said, "I've got a skid steer." He ended up coming by and buying a skid steer from me later on because he got tired of chasing landscape companies that didn't show up, hired his own crew. He said, "I've got this skid steer that I bought from you for $60,000. Or I have 5 lots in Chelsea Park that are worth around $20,000 each." He said, "Whatever gets me $30,000 quickly, that's what I want. That's what I got to do." So I made some phone calls. I found an equipment rental company that I had sold tons of pieces of equipment to, thinking he's going to either want this truck or this piece of equipment. Being a good businessman, he said, "I want those lots." He said, "When this turns around, those lots are going to be worth way more money than either of those pieces of equipment that are depreciating every day." And so I pulled some strings, made it work, got them connected. He bought the lots. He got 5 lots for $30,000 in Chelsea Park, where now those lots are $40,000. They already all have houses on them now. 3 of them were on the water. It was a steal for this man. But John, when he came to me, he said, after it was all over, he said, "I don't know what you did to convince somebody to take the lots in an economy where nobody's building houses, but you helped me even more than I hoped you would, because if I would have sold my truck, then it would be hard on my business. If I would have sold," he said, I have been trying to shift my business to where I can be a landscaper or work for one of these other excavating companies with the skid steer just to try to make ends meet." So he was able to keep the things that would make him a little bit of money and sell these lots. All that to say, that was my first real estate transaction. 10 years before I ever became a realtor. That put it in my mind that I would love to do this. I'm going in and out of these subdivisions, calling on these home builders and excavators and plumbers and septic tank companies. And I see the realtor sitting in the model home, and he's selling something with emotion. He's selling something that makes a difference in a family, not just a work tool like I'm selling. He is making a difference in people's lives. That's what I'd love to do. But I had a salary and a free truck and a whole property full of equipment that people needed that I could sell, and I was terrified to give that up. So it took me 10 years to get the nerve and the faith to jump into real estate. But once I got into real estate, I knew right off the bat that I don't need to focus on how many calls I can make a day. I've gone through Keller Williams Bold training. Anybody ever gone through Keller Williams Bold training or at least heard about it? So, in part of Bold training, there is something called a Bold 100. And I thought I was going to get thrown out of Bold training because I got voted to be a leader of our table, and the instructor comes around and we're supposed to make discussions on what of this we're going to implement. And I had checked off almost everything except for the Bold 100. And what that was 100 calls in a day, 100 conversations in a day, which requires about 300 calls or texts. And I said, I'm not doing that. And he was like, well, you just don't have the work ethic to reach. Do you not know that many people? I said, yeah, I know way more than that people. And I said, but my people know that I care about them way more than a 30-second phone call. And that's what it's going to require for me to get to 100 conversations in a day. And I'm not willing to do that. I'm not willing to sacrifice my reputation for the speed of what you think is best.